share a word that is going to minister to me and hopefully to you, just about thinking big and resisting small, or aiming higher and going further than you ever thought possible. And I know for me, when I don't get down very often, I'm usually a really positive person. I stay positive 99% of the time. But every once in a while, I'll have a really struggling time or a hard week or something, and man, the devil just loves to just beat you up during those times. Maybe I'm the only one, but the devil just loves to, like, no, you're a terrible boss, you're messing it all up, you can't get things together, or whatever. And that week was like that for this week that I went through. And how many know there's just weeks like that in life sometimes? There's days like that, sometimes there's seasons like that, where it'll just be like, man, everything I go to do is just such a struggle, and it's so hard, and I don't know if I'm going to make it through. And in those times, me personally, I like to remind myself of who God is and how big God is and what God says to us about life. And it helps inspire me and remind me who this God is that I serve. Because I know I'm guilty of, when it gets hard like that, I want to take control of everything and make it happen. And so then before I know it, I'm like doing everything and I'm like getting strung out. And I had one of my guys look at me Thursday and said, man, you're going to have to chill out because you're getting stressed. I can see it in your face. He's like, you're packing too much. You need to chill. And my direct boss was off conveniently this week, so it got all dumped on my lap. And it was just stressful. So this morning, I'm hoping to inspire not only myself, but you too, of who this God is that we serve and the life that He wants us to live, and to remind ourselves to think big and not to get in the small minds. When you've been in ministry or when you've been a Christian for a few years and you begin to look back, you see certain building blocks that are foundation stones in your life. There are several, like the first time you met Amazing Grace. The people that God places in our lives are building blocks that I can look back on and think, you know, Lord, I'm so glad I got to meet those people, and I'm so glad they had an impact on my life. Decisions that were made in your life that were pivotal decisions. And you can look back and say, you know, at that time I didn't even know God had that in store for me, and I didn't really understand the magnitude of that decision, but looking back on it now, I see where God was moving His hand in my life. Serving the local church, being involved in the church above anything else is a building block in my life. I've been in church for almost 25 years, and from the first time I stepped foot in the church, I said, God, I want to be a part of your church. I want to be involved. I want to help build your kingdom. Unquestionable integrity is another foundation, a building block in my life that I hold very near and dear. Family is a priority. Family is a big priority in our lives. Forgiving quickly and deeply and truly forgiving people is a huge building block in my life. I've learned to forgive quickly. It doesn't pay to hold bitterness. It doesn't pay to hold grudges. I've really learned to say, Lord, I forgive them and truly forgive them and move on in my life. And these are a few foundation stones that I know God has placed in my life and I build my life upon. And the foundation stone in this message is going to be talking about the shaping power to everything that you can become and everything you can set out to achieve is simply called thinking big and resisting small. This will absolutely shape your life and your mission that God has put before you. The day you realize the impact of your thinking will be the day your life will change in a significant and a deep way. As we think, so are we. You realize you have to think differently. You have to think God thoughts that are big and not small. This is who we're called to be, thinking big and resisting the small. The acronym WAIT, W-A-I-T, is a good thing to put into your mind. What am I thinking? It will help you stop and take a minute and ask yourself the question, what am I thinking about? What am I concerned with? Why am I thinking these thoughts? And are they God thoughts? Are they something that's going to propel my life forward? Or are they thoughts that are small thoughts that are really insignificant and they soak up so much of my time that I'm just wasting my time on them? Usually our thinking is to the small things, and we get so concerned with the small things in our lives that we forget to think the big God thoughts. Isaiah 55:8-9 says, my thoughts, says the Lord, are not like yours, and my ways are different from yours. As high as the heavens are above the earth, so high are my ways and thoughts above yours. In the Message Bible, it says, I don't think the way you think. The way you work isn't the way I work, God's decree. For as the sky soars high above the earth, so the way I work surpasses the way you work, and the way I think is beyond the way you think. So God looks at us and says, my thoughts are so far above your thoughts, the way I think is not the way you think. And that sometimes that can be like a fearful kind of thing to think about, but for me it's encouraging, because I am so glad I have a God who is so far above what I can think about and what I can do in my life, that I can plug into Him and I can see things from His perspective, and it can change the way I live my life. My thoughts are not your thoughts, and my thoughts are high above your thoughts, is what God says. God says, don't get concerned with the small things in your life that eat up so much of your time, but concentrate on my thoughts. Concentrate on my ways, because they're so much higher than your ways. And it's easy, just like with the week I've had, to get caught up in these natural things, and you get so in tune with everything that's going on in the natural that you just completely unplug from the spiritual. And that's pretty much the week I've had. I've been so caught up in the natural things of this earth that my spiritual life was just kind of neglected, because I was just trying to get things done. Yesterday, I told Sherry yesterday, I said, I need a day to just relax. Just nothing. I just don't want to do anything. I just need to. And so I'm a big college football fan. I'm sitting there watching college football. And at 1 o'clock yesterday, my phone starts blowing up. There's an issue with the escalators, Assembly Hall. My guy who's out there working he calls me. I have to start texting people, and for about the next 35 minutes on my supposed day off, my phone's blowing up. I'm getting text messages from higher ups, and they're freaking out, and the president's going to walk through the Assembly Hall, and the escalators aren't working, and Sherry's like, you just need to go in, and I'm like, no, it's supposed to be my day off, I'm not going to go. And so as I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, man, I can't even get like an afternoon off to just chill, you know what I mean? I just don't want to think for a minute. I just want to nothing. I just want to watch the TV. I just want to watch some football and just quit thinking and worrying. And then right in the middle of it, all this happens, and instantly my mind, I was actually, right before that, I was watching some John Maxwell stuff, just trying to encourage myself, and it's like, man, the enemy is just, he never quits, does he? I was watching some John Maxwell leadership stuff, and I was getting some encouragement from that, and then all of a sudden my phone starts blowing up. And it's like you're pulled right back into these little natural things that just eat at you. Maybe I'm the only one. Anybody else ever experienced this?
Yeah.
So Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make straight your paths. And Proverbs 23, 7 says, for as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. So if we're not careful, we get caught up in these small thoughts, these small things going on in our lives. And before you know it, that's where our focus is. That's where our heart is. And before you know it, we're so consumed with the natural things of life that our spiritual side just kind of goes dormant. The truth is that nothing great, nothing transformative, nothing that ever changed history was done with small thinking. The actual matter of the fact is most people think too small. They pray too small. They believe too small. And they live too small. God has not called us to live small lives. God has called us to live abundant, overcoming, successful lives where we walk out and we impact the world for God. Thinking small is yielding to our own thoughts that derail God's plans in our lives. We think small and it makes us forget about God's dreams for us or God's aspiration, and it limits God's power through us. Thinking small is thinking about our own desires, our own thoughts, our own processes, and we just put God to the side. Ephesians 4:23 in the Message Bible talks about a life renewed from the inside. One of our greatest risks is thinking too small, concentrating on the small things and forgetting about the big things that God has in store for us. We need to think big. Life is too short to think small. Nothing limits achievement like small thinking. But nothing expands possibilities like unleashed imagination. I'm full of imagination. I constantly think of great ideas, great things we could do, great things, oh man, it'd be so awesome. Let's all take a family vacation and go here and do this, and it'd be so much fun. And you guys ever done that? Like, oh, let's take a vacation. Let's take the kids up here. Oh, it'll be so much fun. We'll have so much fun. And then you get about 2 hours into it and you're thinking, good God, why did we do this? Let's go back home. It's like, oh, this is not what I imagined. I thought they were all going to be happy. We're going to be, trucking along, and they're in the back seat. Yeah, she's touching me, she's touching me. I'm hungry. Are we there yet? And you're thinking, good Lord, let's just turn this rig around and go home. It's funny how we get these imaginations on how things should be and how things are going to go. And like, I'm an imaginative person, so like I get these thoughts in my head, and I'm all excited about it. I'm ready to go and ready to jump in, and then everything else, all the reality comes in, and you're like, forget it. Let's just go home. This isn't what I expected. Thinking small is a habit. We choose to think small thoughts. We choose to allow our mind to be caught up in small things. Our minds become filled with wrong thinking. We have to claim our mind back from the enemy and say, you know what, I'm not going to get caught up on those small things anymore. It's just a small thing. In the scheme of life, what's it going to matter? See, that Sherry's not up here because she hates that saying. Because that's one of my favorite sayings. In the scheme of life, what's this moment going to matter? Or 100 years from now, is anybody going to care about this? But it's hard not to get caught up in those things. Thinking small is the what if that sabotages our God dream. We fall into a deep hole of what if. What if it doesn't work out? What if my family disapproves? What if paralyzes people to think within the box? What if? They're two tiny words that can cause fear, anxiety, depression. They can control us. The what if is a doubt builder. It's a faith destroyer. Well, what if I step out in that direction and I do that? What if I fail? Or what if I let those things go and I don't take it on and I don't take control of it and I don't get it done? It's not going to happen. Now, can you relate to that? I got to get it done. If I don't do it, I can't rely on somebody else to do it. And it's hard. I was just sharing with Natalie before service. It's hard to let things go and to delegate and rely on other people to get things done. Because especially when it's things that, you really have to get done. It's much easier just to grab a hold of it and do it yourself. And then before you know it, you're caught up in all these little small things and you're forgetting about the big things. What if is a doubt builder. Well, what if I try that and I fail? I tried that once before and, I failed. I didn't do it right. Well, what if people make fun of me if they know I go to church? Or what if the guys at work make fun of me if they know I'm a Christian? Or the what ifs is a stronghold. It's a stronghold of fear that robs us of thinking big. 2 Timothy 1:7 says, God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of sound mind. I love that scripture. God has not given us a spirit of fear. I talk with Sherry a lot about this. A lot of people live in fear. And sometimes we mask it with like hyper faith. And we mask it with like this hyper faith. Oh, God's able and He's going to get us through. But if you look underneath that, it's really a spirit of fear that can drive that hyper faith. And that person is actually scared of what's going to happen. And Sherry and I talk a lot about this. I'm not a very fearful person to step out. I don't have a lot of fear in my life because I trust Him. And I figure if He's got my back, then I'm all right. But a lot of people are just stuck in the spirit of fear and they won't move any direction. They won't do anything because they're afraid. But God says clearly He's not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of sound mind. Living life through the lens of fear is really not living at all. You'll just stay stationary. You won't do anything because you're scared to death to do anything. And the fact of the matter is life is risky. It's full of risks. Sometimes they work out great. Sometimes you fall flat on your face and you get up and say, well, at least I tried. I would rather I've taught my boys, I would rather you step out in faith than to just be bound in fear and never move. You got to think big. You got to go beyond what you think can happen and step out in that faith. But so many Christians live in a spirit of fear. And we try to, I know hyper-faith Christians. And by hyper-faith, I mean it's just, you can't even say anything. If you say, oh, I don't feel so good today. Oh, brother, I rebuke that in Jesus' name. You can't say that. Well, no, I can say I don't feel good today. Sorry, God's not going to be mad at me if I say that. But a lot of those Christians that I know who live like that, underneath it, this hyper-fear or hyper-faith is really a spirit of fear that drives it. And they're really afraid of a lot of things. The what if is a negative focus. The pessimist says, what if? And they think about all the problem possibilities instead of great opportunities. There are far, far better things ahead than we'll ever leave behind. And we have to remind ourselves of that, to think big, to get out of the small things. Thinking small is the I'm not, and fill in the blank. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not strong enough. I'm not rich enough. I'm not ambitious enough. I'm not, good looking enough. I can't do it. You have to remind yourself that my attitude is more important than my intelligence. I would take a person who doesn't know how to do a job with a great attitude than somebody who is very well educated and very well understands how to do the job with a poor attitude. I'll take that any day of the week, because that person's attitude is contagious. That person both of them are. The person with the positive attitude is contagious. They can build each other up. The person with the negative attitude, oh man, is it super contagious. It can flow through a church, it can flow through a workplace. Negative attitudes, man, they can change the whole dynamics. One of the things, like in our shop, the person I took over for in the supervisory position, we all nicknamed him Eeyore, because every day it was, okay, let's go to work. And it was such a negative environment. Our guys just despised it. And it was so bad through our whole department that one day we were having this meeting, and they threw out this statistic that 80% of our guys in our department used 100% of their time off. 80% of the guys in our department were using 100% of their time off. And they were trying to figure out, what can we do about this? What do we need to do to change it? And so I just asked, I said, well, as the leadership team, have we asked why our people don't want to come to work? And they were like, well, no. Like, well, there's a reason. There's a reason these people aren't wanting to come to work. If 80% of our people are using 100% of their time off, that's an attitude issue. That's an environment issue. That's a culture we've created where people don't want to be here. So attitude is important. Attitude is more important than my intelligence. And I'll tell you this, as a Christian, you better believe that everybody watches our attitude. You better believe my guys watched me this week to see how I handled the stress. If I would have freaked out and been like, "Ah, you guys get out there right now, get it down, I want to hear it," I would have been a terrible, terrible witness to them. Attitude really determines our altitude. I've heard that said a lot through my life. My former pastor used to say that. Attitude determines our altitude. Henry Ford said this: whether you think you can or you think you can't, either way, you are right. That's a pretty profound statement. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, either way, you're right. Thinking small is the I'm not, whatever, fill in the blank enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not rich enough. I'm not tall enough. I'm not good looking enough. Thinking small causes us to make little plans to suit our little foresight with our little power. Thinking small makes us consider the small plans, the little things. That is not who God has called us to be. God has not called us to be people who are just absolutely consumed with the small things, the smallness of our lives. God is a dreamer. God is a dreamer. God has vision. I mean, look around us. Look at this beautiful day and these beautiful leaves and these beautiful colors. And don't tell me God doesn't have an imagination. He created me. I mean, and if you want to, you can look at somebody and say, yeah, and he created you. No, I'm just kidding. God has an imagination. So therefore, I'm made in the image and likeness of God. I should have an imagination. I should dream big. I love dreaming big. I'm telling you, I love dreaming big. And I almost get frustrated. That is what happens. I get frustrated when the little things of life bring me down. And I get frustrated with myself when I let those things start wearing on me, because it just makes you feel like so overwhelmed and so burdened down. Psalm 78:41 says, they limited Almighty God. Our small little plans, our small little foresight with little power limits our God. Our agendas compared to what God has planned for us are too small. The day we accomplish what we had in mind to accomplish is the day which we know we did not plan to make God involved enough in our plans. Let me say that again. The day we accomplish what we had in mind to accomplish is the day which we know we did not plan to make God be involved enough in our plans. See, really, I've been taught that a godly vision should go beyond our lifetime. If it's something that I can achieve in my lifetime, then it's really too small of a vision. Godly vision transcends my lifetime. It transcends my generation. That's why we are so big here at Family Life Church and pouring into the next generation. Because too many times we see pastors and leaders of churches who get so caught up in the small things of where they're at right now, and then that generation passes on and the church collapses. And it's so sad to me. That is such a sad thing to see empty church buildings. But you can look at those places and think, their vision, it was too small. It stopped with them. And so many churches, when that first generation or, the planning generation or whatever passes on, the church collapses. So I'm already thinking, I'm getting ready to turn 47 years old, and I'm already thinking beyond my lifetime. God, what's your plans beyond my lifetime? I want to see Family Life Church and with our children thriving way after I'm gone, unless the Lord comes back. Thinking small causes little plans, little ideas. Here's a quote from D.L. Moody. If God is your partner, make your plans big. This means my plans are not to be safe, predictable, or expected. And A.W. Tozer said this, God is looking for those with whom he can do the impossible. What a pity that we plan only things that we can do by ourselves. God is looking for those that he can do the impossible. That's us. That's me. That's you. Things beyond the little things in life that drag us down. Thinking small causes us to see little in the darkness of any circumstance where God is actually working and at work doing marvelous things. Joseph was in the dark as to what God was doing, but he remained God's man in dark times, even when he couldn't see. He still believed in God. See, in the darkness is actually where God does some of his best work. I know in my own life, when I've walked through dark times of my life, and I've walked through situations where I felt like God was miles away from me, when I get to the other side and I look back at that time, I see where God did so much of my life. So in the darkness, don't get caught up in thinking God's not with me. In those times when it's hard and you got to just kind of suffer through it, don't fall into the trap and believe what the devil says that, God's abandoned you or God's left you. No, actually, God is at work in those times, more so than we realize. The Bible begins with our God at work in the darkness. In Genesis 1:2, in the darkness covered the face of the deep. God begins his work in darkness, and he creates this beautiful light. God creates this beautiful universe out of darkness, out of nothing. God is sovereign, and God is always working in all things for our good. God's ways are higher than our ways. God is always working all things for our good. Somebody needs to hear that today. In the middle of your darkness, in the middle of your despair, God is working all things for your good. It doesn't matter what you're going through. It doesn't matter what you're walking through. God is still working. God is still moving. Thinking small will come out in your words. How you speak about yourself, your life, your activity, your future, your resources, and your relationships. You ever met small thinking people? No, I can't do it. It's not even worth trying. I'm too stupid. I can't do that job. I'm just a big idiot. No, you're not. You are made in the image and likeness of God. You can do all things. That's what the Word says. I can do all things through Christ who is my strength. I can do anything that I set my mind to. With God's help and God's power, I can do it. I can walk this thing out. Small-minded people come out in their words. Oh, we'll never be able to do that. We did it once before and we failed. I used to get so frustrated in some of our leadership meetings at my former church because there was a couple people in there that were very small-minded people. And no matter what idea you would bring up, no, that ain't going to work. We tried that. Well, let's try it this way. No. You might as well not even try it. We tried it, it failed. Just go on. It's like, oh, you ever met those people in your work relationship or anything? No, we try it. We tried that one. It failed. Well, this is like a whole new approach. No, it's the same thing. Here's wasting time. Let's go. I hate this place. Let's just go to work and get done. Right? It's like small-minded people, man. It comes out in their words. You can tell that in their life, they're just thinking small will come out. So think about the words you're saying. Proverbs 18:21 says, death and life are in the power of the tongue. You know, it's actually in your own tongue over your own life. It's not just talking about other people. Death and life are in the power of my own tongue. You know how many people I've told in counseling with people over the years, the first thing I want you to do is stand in the mirror and tell yourself, I love you. You ever try that? A lot of people can't do it. They're so frustrated and discouraged and down on themselves that they literally can't look in the mirror and say, I love you, Rick. You're a good person. No, you're not perfect, but you're a good person. God's working on you. A lot of people can't do that. I mean, they refuse to. I have literally stood people in front of the mirror and said, tell you you love yourself. I can't say it, don't maybe I'm not going to say it. The power of death and life are in your own, over your own life. Start speaking life to yourself. Start telling yourself, I can do this. The God I serve is bigger than these circumstances. The God I serve is more able than I am. And I'm going to lean on Him and I'm going to trust Him. And quit thinking small and quit viewing all your own little things in your life and start thinking God thoughts. Proverbs 18:7 says, a fool's mouth is his ruin, as his lips are a snare to his own soul. A fool's mouth is his ruin, as his lips are a snare to his soul. What do you speak about yourself? Do you think small about yourself when you talk about yourself? Well, I'm trying, but I'm just such a loser. I'll never be able to do it. No. Come on. Now, I was talking about hyper-faith people earlier and not saying you're sick. Don't get me wrong. There's power in our words. And I do believe that if you start confessing things, you can bring things manifest in your own life. I'm just a big idiot. I'm just too stupid. I'll never be able to do it. You say that enough, and you'll manifest it in your life, and you'll be a big stupid idiot because that's what you believe about yourself. I mean, it's true. There's power in our words. We are made in the image and likeness of God. God spoke the world into existence, right? If we're made in His image and likeness, trust me, there's power in our own words. Parents, there's power in our words over our children. Speak life, not death. Young people, there's power over our words to our friends and our colleagues. Speak life into their lives. Especially if they're the one who's speaking death about themselves. Man, speak life into that person's life and say, no, you're not too dumb. No, you're not too stupid. You are better. You are more than able to do this. You can get through this. Thinking small will come out in your own words. Think about the things that you're saying about your own life. Thinking small is narrow thinking that has been shaped by the daily pressures to narrow our thinking. People build cages for themselves, iron bars of self-doubt. We think we can break out later, but the clock just keeps ticking. Things stay the same. Our life becomes one of mere existence. We at times try to break out, but we just slip back into the cage. It narrows our thinking, and we build ourselves into this cage of self-doubt and self-worthlessness that we can't do it. Well, I'm going to try. I'll start tomorrow. I'm going to try. I'll start next week. Well, I tried, and I just fell flat on my face. It's not even worth it. A mental fog sets in. Everyday worries, the mundane, the pressures to just get by, to live life. You begin to postpone dreams. You settle for less. Ambition is at the bottom of your life. You just get into this mental fog of, if I can just survive today. Man, I hate living like that. If I can just get through this day. I hate that. We all get in those times. Oh man, it's only Thursday. Ugh. Oh, 12 hours, I can make it. Or we get on autopilot. Autopilot sets in our lives and we just begin to coast. We take the easy road. We stop pressing on. We stop pressing in. We stop dreaming big. And we just start accepting the small life that we're destined to live. Big is just too hard, Rick. You don't realize how hard it is for me to step out again. It's too far out of my reach. We settle into a lifetime of small living. There's people who live like this. people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s that have just settled into living a small life. There's really no ambition anymore. There's no big. Everything is just too hard. It's just autopilot. God has called us beyond that. God has called us to think big and go higher. My thoughts are not your thoughts, and the way I think is beyond the way you think, is what God says. If it's impossible, said pride. It's risky, said experience. It's pointless, said reason. And give it a try, whispers your heart. You ever had that? I can do this. Your heart tells you, you can do this. I can take this on. I can get through this. And then pride says, oh, that's impossible. You're never going to do it. Experience speaks up and says, oh, it's risky. We tried that once before. I don't know. And reason says, well, it's pointless. You're never going to change. You're always going to be that way. But down deep in the depths of our soul, our heart whispers, come on, let's give it a try. If things seem like they're under control, you're just not going fast enough. That's Mario Andretti for all the older people. All the young people are like, Mario Andretti, who's that? Thinking big, God-higher thoughts will push you into the faith realm where all things are possible, a realm of exceedingly more. God has called us to get out of the small thinking, to get out of the small things, and to concentrate on Him and live in the realm of faith, not fear, which are exactly the same yet polar opposites. Did you know that? Fear and faith are exactly the same, only polar opposites. Faith is... I just lost it. Help me, Lisa.
Substance of things hoped for.
Yes, the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen, right? Fear is the same thing. Fear is the substance of things dreaded and the evidence of things not seen. It's just the polar opposite. Faith moves in the things hoped for, and fear moves in the things I dread. So if you're consumed by fear, it's impossible to be living by faith. You can't do both. You have to live by faith, or you're going to live by fear. And a lot of times, if we look at it, we're living in fear. Oh my God! No, I can't live. Careful, she's going to fall. It's fear. I can't leave him alone. What if they get hurt? Oh God, get her down. She's going to fall. It's fear. And fear drives us a lot. Fear drives a lot of our decision making. And if you really stop and think about it, it's fear. It's not faith. It's fear that we move in. Luke 1:37 in the Message says, nothing you see is impossible with God. Eleanor Roosevelt said this, do one thing every day that scares you. I like that. Do one thing every day that scares you. You will get what you settle for. Sometimes we just have to leap and the net will appear. Thinking big, God-higher thoughts will motivate you to dream big for God's plans in your life beyond your own imagination. Ephesians 3:20, God can do anything, you know, far more than you could ever imagine or guess or request in your wildest dreams. He does it not by pushing us around, but by working within us, His Spirit deeply and gently within us. God can do anything, far more than we can ever imagine that we could do. You think I ever thought I would be where I'm at today? No clue. Had no idea. All I've done is follow God and serve God, and God has just opened doors. It's just amazing what God has done. It's just, in the last 2 years, I have seen God transform my position in my workplace to where I have so much influence now in people's lives. Spiritual influence. And people I never would have had influence in. God has opened doors of opportunity for me in my workplace that I never ever thought that I would have entrance into. People asking me things, people emailing me, people talking to me, people asking me for insight in their lives, people that I never thought would ask me in a million years. And it's all God. God has opened these doors of opportunity to me, and they're way bigger than I ever thought or imagined. Thinking big, God-higher thoughts will not let the good things crowd out God's best for your life. Press the limit and go higher. Thinking big, God-higher thoughts will not let the good things crowd out God's best for your life. Press the limit and go higher. See, a lot of times we settle for good Good's okay. Yeah, life's good. I'm good. I can coast. It's comfortable to coast, isn't it? Isn't it kind of it's kind of nice to go to work every day and know the expectations and just kind of get in the coast mode. You ever have God say, well, you're not coasting anymore? I've got this opportunity over here for you and I'm getting ready to move you. And it's scary. You're like, Lord, I've been here for a long time and man, I know the drill, God. I could do this with my eyes closed. I'm pretty comfortable. God says, I know. It's good, but I've got better for you. So you need to move over here. You ever had that happen? It's kind of scary. Kind of like, oh God, do I really have to? Isaiah 54:3 in the Message says, clear lots of grounds for your tents. Make your tent large. Spread out. Think big. Use plenty of rope. Where can I be best used for God? Where can God use me for the best for His purposes? T.S. Eliot said, only those who risk going too far can possibly find out how far one can go. Are you risking? Are you taking chances in your life? Or are you just okay with just good enough? Are you just so caught up in little things and the small details of life that you just kind of struggle each day to get through each day and say, well, thank God I made it. Whew, it's time to punch out and go home. Oh, thank you, Jesus. Sadly, we all go through those times. I want to remind us today that God has bigger and better in store for us. Bigger and better than just getting caught up in the small, mundane things of our lives and just making it through to the next weekend. You know, one thing that kills me is every Monday we go to work and about half the people there say, is it Friday yet? Man. You know, and I've been guilty of saying, I asked Jason Wednesday, I was like, is it Friday yet? I'm ready for this week to be over. And it's like, man, what am I going to miss, you know? Wednesday and Thursday. If I'm thinking that, if I'm just kind of floating through Wednesday and Thursday then, what am I missing? It's kind of like that movie where they fast forward it. What was the name of that? Click, yeah. Man, what a spiritual truth to that movie. You know, where you can just keep fast forwarding through the tough times of your life, and then before you know it, man, you fast forwarded through your whole life. Thinking big will help us get through the small things. Go out on a limb. That's where the best fruit usually is. Thinking big, God, higher thoughts will believe and see all the unlimited resources you will ever need coming to you. Ephesians 3:16 in the New Living Translation. Pray that from His glorious unlimited resources, He will empower you with inner strength through His Spirit, through the Spirit. Think big. Step out. Concentrate on what God has us doing. See, the devil loves to get us caught up in just the little small details of life. And then before we know it, we're just existing, we're getting up, we're just making it through, we're getting it through our day, and we just totally forget that there's this whole separate part of my life called the spiritual side where God's involved and there's higher things and higher purposes. Thinking big, God, higher thoughts, you need a breath of the Holy Spirit to expand your thoughts. Sweep past boundaries that allow you to think the unthinkable. Thinking big thoughts is thinking anything is possible. So you break through the outer limits of your thinking and the barriers of your future. All things are possible. I need to remind myself of that. I serve a God who's so much bigger than Indiana University. And so much bigger than the concerns of the daily things that go on there. So why do I allow myself to get caught up in it? I serve a God that's so much bigger than this election coming up. You know what? I read a quote, I believe, from John Maxwell. And he said, November 9th, God is still going to be in control. No matter who gets elected, no matter how it goes, you can have hope in that God is still going to be in control. And I thought, you know what? He's right. We can get so caught up in political point of views and this and that and all these things going on, and the news, you know, just racks our brain with it. And everywhere you look, it's bad news, it's sad news, this, whatever. God's bigger than all those things. Do you think if one of these two get elected in November that God's going to be like, nope, didn't see that one coming. Woo! Got to change the course of history now. Caught me by surprise. No. It's not God. God knows exactly what's going on. But yet we get so caught up in it, and we fight on Facebook, and we argue with each other, and this and that, and here's this post, and read this thing, and watch this video, and you got Christians butting heads with each other, and families split over who's going to do what, and it's like, what? Whatever. Why do I get so caught up in those things? God knows. God's so much bigger than those things. If you allow your smallness of spirit, that's the life you will have. If you allow smallness of spirit, that's the life you're going to have. If you allow the small thinking to capture you and to consume you, then you are going to live a small life. Oh, but here's the good news. If you allow the Holy Spirit of God to expand your thinking, to never stop moving forward, to never stop expanding, to never stop thinking on Him, then you're never going to limit your life or the life of others. Man, that's good to hear. Isn't that good news? When I allow the Holy Spirit to enter into my thought process and enter into my heart, He expands my thought process. And I don't have to get so consumed with the small things of life. I understand that my God is so much bigger and He has so much more in store. God's bigger than any university. He's bigger than the state of Indiana. He's bigger than the United States of America. He's bigger than the world. So why do I get so caught up in the little things? Why do I allow it to beat me down and stress me out when God is saying, live up here. Live in the highness of me. Don't live down here in the small things and get caught up in all the mud and the muck and the mire. You need to live up here. I've got so much in store for you. Thinking big means you shoot for the moon. You go higher. You go farther than what you can see ahead. If the worship team is going to get ready to come up, I'm closing out here. God has called us to live a life of thinking big. But sadly, so many of us as Christians choose to live in the smallness of life. And I understand. It's hard. Life happens. Life goes on. Kids need to be at programs. Kids need to be at sporting events. Bills have to be paid. Work needs to be done. I get it. But I got really frustrated with myself this week because I allowed the little small things that really are insignificant really pull my attention away from God this week. And I get frustrated with myself when I allow that to happen because it affects me. I can sense it. And I'm telling you, yesterday Sherry's like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm spent. I'm spent. Just blah. She's like, well, you want to go do this? You want to do that? I'm like, no, I just prefer to sit right here. That's all right with you? I just want to sit here. She's like, yeah, that's fine. I'm just worried about you acting funny. You're kind of acting. So I'm preaching to me this morning, and you guys just happen to be here to hear it. We can't get caught up in the small things, because that's exactly what they are small things. So when life's happening and you notice you're getting stressed, and you know you're getting burdened down, and you notice you're getting kind of blah, take a pause for a second and think, man, am I just worrying about like the small things? Where's the big things in this? Where's God in all of this? Because I'll bet you $5 that He'll say, you know what? Those things are insignificant. Don't even, I've got that. Don't even worry about those things. You stay up here with me. You think on my thoughts. You think on my ways. Those other things are all going to work out. I forget what the exact number is, but it's like 90% of what we worry about never happens. It's really high. I don't know if that's the exact number. But the things that just consume our thoughts, consume our lives, and we worry about never come true. Those are small things. God is calling us to think big, to live higher, to have life more abundant. That's what that means, to have abundant life. God has not called us just to get through the day. Oh, God. I've still got 5 hours left to work today. I don't know if I'm going to make it. Man, can you imagine when you walk into work and your mind has been on God's thoughts and God's ways, and you walk in and totally transform the dynamic of that place? That's where I was going when I was talking about the person who was in my job earlier. We called him Eeyore. My boss is just astounded at the transformation of our department where I work. And the only reason it's changed is because every day I try to go in with a good attitude. I try to go in with a good attitude. If I wake up and I'm in a bad mood, I pray on the way to work, God, I don't want to go to work like this. You know, help me get a better attitude. I need to go in. We have fun now. We joke. We laugh. And my boss is just amazed at the transformation of our group of guys. Our group of guys are really close. We text each other on the weekends. They text me. I text them. We're involved in each other's lives. And it's just a total transformation. And it's simply because a person who's in this position now has decided to, you know what, I'm going to go in with the right attitude. And it's not me. Don't get me wrong. I'm not. It's him. It's him. If I go in with that attitude, God can fix me. You know what I mean? And you need to change your attitude, God. It's gonna affect everybody else. So think big. Thank God. Because His ways are way above our ways. And don't get stuck in the muck and the mire and the mud of the small things. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. I'm glad this week's over. I'm glad. I'm looking forward to next week. It's going to be a better week in Jesus' name. Amen. Let's worship this one.